Ghosts and crime, two realms that rarely overlap, yet when they do, the results can be chilling. Today we'll explore real-life cases where the paranormal meets the criminal, where ghosts become witnesses, and where the boundary between the living and the dead blurs. These are the creepy paranormal cases that have left investigators baffled and the public captivated. Our first story takes us back to 1897 in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, a case known as the Greenbrier Ghost. It's a story that sounds like fiction, a crime solved by the testimony of a spirit. When Elva Zona Heister was found dead in her home, her death was initially ruled as natural, a tragic accident with little suspicion. But Zona's mother, Mary Jane Heister, believed otherwise. She claimed her daughter had appeared to her in dreams, revealing that she had been killed by her husband, Edward Shue. Mary Jane went to the authorities, insisting they investigate further, and remarkably, they listened. When Zona's body was exhumed, the examination showed clear evidence of foul play. Her neck had been broken. Edward Shue was arrested and found guilty of her murder. Was it really the ghost of Zona that had exposed the truth, or was it a mother's intuition? To this day, the Greenbrier Ghost remains one of the only cases in American history where the testimony of a spirit led to a conviction. In Maryland, there stands a historic home known as Hager House, a relic of colonial America that has long been rumored to be haunted. But in the late 1970s, the haunting took a darker turn. Visitors and staff began reporting strange occurrences, cold spots, disembodied voices, and the sudden feeling of being watched. At first, it seemed like a classic haunting, but soon, local law enforcement found themselves involved. One night, a caretaker reported seeing a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the property. The figure seemed to vanish into thin air. When police were called, they discovered something more disturbing, a series of shallow graves hidden beneath an overgrown part of the estate. The bodies, as it turned out, were victims of a long-forgotten crime. Some theorized that it was the restless spirits of these victims who had been trying to bring attention to their tragic fate. Though the true story behind those graves remains unsolved, the ghostly warnings that led to their discovery were undeniable. Next, we travel to Brampton, England, where a family's report of a poltergeist turned into an unexpected criminal investigation. The Harper family claimed they were being tormented by a restless spirit. Objects would go missing only to reappear in strange places. Picture frames were knocked off the walls, and eerie whispers could be heard echoing through the halls late at night. But when the family called in a paranormal investigator, things took an unexpected turn. The investigator noticed that the missing items, particularly valuable jewelry, weren't just being moved, but were vanishing entirely. A hidden camera was set up, not to capture a ghost, but to see if a more earthly explanation could be found. To everyone's surprise, the footage revealed the family's own neighbor sneaking into the house, pretending to be a spirit while stealing their valuables. This bizarre case showed how easily fear and superstition could be used to mask real crimes. Though the neighbor was caught and the jewelry returned, the family never quite felt safe in their home again, haunted now by both the specter of betrayal and the lingering question, was there ever a real poltergeist or was something else at play? High on the cliffs of Colombia lies the Hotel del Salto, an abandoned building with a tragic history. Rumored to be haunted by the spirits of those who met untimely ends there, it became a destination for paranormal enthusiasts. One such visitor, a photographer named Maria, claimed that during her stay, she was woken by a ghostly figure, standing at the edge of her bed, pointing towards the window. Disturbed by the encounter, Maria left the room and alerted the hotel's caretaker. When they investigated, they found that the balcony outside her window had become dangerously unstable, on the verge of collapsing. Had she stepped onto it, she might have fallen to her death. To Maria, there was no doubt, a spirit had saved her life, warning her of the danger. Whether it was a ghostly guardian or a subconscious fear manifesting itself, Maria's story is one of the few where an alleged haunting may have prevented a tragedy rather than causing one. It reminds us that not all spirits are here to harm. Some may even be watching out for us. In the early 2000s, a small town in Texas was shaken by a break-in that turned into a missing persons case. A woman named Linda had vanished without a trace, and law enforcement had no leads. That is until a local psychic approached the police, claiming to have seen visions of Linda being held at a remote location. A vision, she said, given to her by Linda's restless spirit. At first, the police were skeptical, but with no other leads, they followed the directions the psychic provided. Incredibly, they found Linda alive in an abandoned farmhouse. She had been held there for days, and her captor had fled just moments before law enforcement arrived. While the authorities have never officially credited the psychic, many believe that without her intervention, Linda might not have survived. Whether it was true clairvoyance or simply a lucky guess, the rescue of Linda remains one of those paranormal cases that defies explanation. A moment when the boundary between the world we see and the world beyond seemed to blur. Not all ghostly encounters tied to crime are about solving mysteries. Sometimes they are about finding closure. In 2015, a man named John reported seeing the figure of his late wife standing at the foot of his bed just days after her tragic passing. She had been the victim of a hit and run, and the driver had not been caught. John described his wife's apparition as peaceful, and he felt she was trying to communicate something important. A few days later, while going through her belongings, John found a piece of evidence, an old parking ticket which led police to the driver. It turned out to be the same vehicle involved in the hit and run. To John, it was clear his wife had returned to help bring justice. The driver was apprehended, and John found a sense of peace, believing that his wife's spirit had not left until she knew justice had been served. It's stories like these that make us wonder if even after death, the bonds we share can transcend the boundaries of our world. In 2008, a couple living in a small town in upstate New York reported experiencing strange occurrences following a local tragedy, a disappearance that had shaken the entire community. The missing person was a young woman named Emily who had vanished while jogging along a rural road. Despite exhaustive searches, no trace of her had been found. The couple, Anna and Rick, lived near the area where Emily was last seen. One night, Anna was woken by a faint tapping sound at the bedroom window. At first, she assumed it was just a branch, but the sound was rhythmic, almost deliberate. When she looked out, she saw a pale figure, barely visible in the darkness, pointing toward the nearby woods. Startled, she woke Rick, but by the time he looked, the figure was gone. Disturbed, the couple reported the experience to the local authorities. The police, initially skeptical, decided to check the woods as part of their ongoing investigation. To their shock, they found a piece of Emily's clothing caught on a bush near an old abandoned well. This led to a deeper search, and tragically, Emily's body was eventually recovered. Though it was too late to save her, the discovery brought closure to her grieving family. Anna remains convinced that it was Emily's spirit trying to guide them, reaching out from beyond to ensure that she was found and given a proper resting place. It's cases like these that leave us wondering if the spirits of the lost are sometimes closer than we think, still trying to be heard. Our final story takes us to a winding, secluded road in rural Scotland, known locally as a place to avoid after dark. Drivers often spoke of strange sightings, ghostly figures appearing by the roadside only to vanish when approached. One rainy night in 2016, a motorist named Greg was driving home when he saw what looked like a car at the bottom of a steep embankment, its lights flickering through the trees. Greg pulled over and called emergency services, believing there had been an accident. He described seeing the outline of a driver slumped over the wheel. The police arrived swiftly, but when they searched, there was no car to be found, only the wet grass, undisturbed, and the rain-soaked road. Greg was baffled, but the story took a strange turn days later when another motorist lost control at the exact same spot. The vehicle careened down the embankment and the driver was critically injured. When questioned, the driver said he had swerved to avoid what looked like a car already at the bottom of the slope, its lights flashing in distress. Locals believe it was the spirit of a driver who had crashed there years before, forever trying to warn others of the dangerous turn. The incident prompted authorities to install better signage and barriers, reducing accidents in the area. It seems that even in death, some spirits strive to protect the living. These stories of ghosts and crime show us that the line between the natural and the supernatural is often far thinner than we imagine. Whether it's a spirit seeking justice, a ghostly warning preventing harm, or even an unsettling encounter revealing a deeper truth, these moments remind us that there are mysteries in this world that defy explanation. Perhaps in some way the spirits of those wronged are still here, reaching out to help, to warn, or to find peace. And as long as these stories exist, they remind us to stay curious, to question the unknown, and to wonder if maybe, just maybe, there is more to this world than we can see. If you enjoyed this dive into the eerie and mysterious, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We'll be back with more stories that explore the unknown, where crime, history, and the paranormal collide. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, the truth is out there.